Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going over my week 4, basically must-start players in fantasy football. These guys should secure you a win this upcoming week here. We're starting off with T. Higgins, but before we do that, quickly, I just want to say thank you so much for 2,000 subscribers. I'm seeing a lot of the same faces in the comment section down below on these videos. You guys are amazing, and thank you so much for all the recent support on to 2,500 here. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button at the end. If you did enjoy, drop a like. We're starting off with T. Higgins, all right? Going against the Tennessee Titans here. So far this season for T. Higgins owners has been an up and down roller coaster. Some might call it a disaster, all right? It's clear that the consistency is really the main issue here. In week number 1, T. Higgins dropped a fat donut, a 0 bomb. Week number 2, he exploded, 28.9. You're thinking, okay, T. Higgins is back, baby. All right, we're back and we're cooking. That's never going to happen again. Well, week number 3 dropped another dud, 4.1. All right. The health of Burrow is also another concern in this situation. T. Higgins, where he was drafted, it was right around the area where Chris Olave was going and Devontae Smith, which, of course, both of these guys are doing much better than him consistency-wise this season and in terms of total points. I think this is a clear buy low opportunity. I know you guys are probably seeing this video on Saturday. I would be going out and making trade offers for T. Higgins at the moment because once Joe Burrow is back and fully healthy, the wheels are going to start churning again. All right, everything's going to start clicking for this Bengals offense. I do expect them to make the playoffs this year. All right, they started out 1-2, looking a little rough, but that's clearly because of Burrow's calf. All right, it's not too many other factors involved in this. This week in particular, they're going against the Tennessee Titans. All right, I'm definitely expecting a bounce-back game from not only T. Higgins, but another good game from Jamar Chase here. Tennessee is currently ranking 29th against opposing wide receivers so far this year. Week number 1, they gave up 305 passing yards to Derek Carr and the Saints. Week number 2, 305 yards to the Chargers. Week number 3, 289 yards to the Cleveland Browns. So Burrow is bound to have a good game here. The good news is that on Monday night, Burrow didn't re-aggravate anything. And that's exactly what you want to see here. Now, you might have to hold your breath for a couple more weeks that he doesn't re-aggravate that calf strain. But if he gets past that period of time, I'm telling you, everything's going to start clicking for the Cincinnati Bengals again. And T. Higgins will get going on a weekly basis. Moving on to number 2, we have Michael Pittman Jr. going against the Los Angeles Rams. This is one of the steals of the draft so far. If you drafted Michael Pittman Jr., it was a late pick. All right, it was not one of the top round wide receivers. All right, he was buried deep in there because of what happened last season. I think it's very clear that we're seeing this year what we should have saw last year from Michael Pittman Jr. due to Matt Ryan being insanely old, not being able to get out of the pocket whatsoever and create plays and opportunities, and also the coaching staff issues last season. Michael Pittman Jr. so far this season has at least 11 targets in every game so far. So far, he's scored 23.7, 13.6, and 16.7 in PPR formats, which is very consistent. You love to see that. Also, he clearly seems to be Anthony Richardson's favorite target every game he's played so far. He didn't play last week in week 3, and it didn't even matter. He still had a great game with Gardner Minshew throwing to him. So that just proves that whether it's Anthony Richardson, whether it's Gardner Minshew, you should still be starting Michael Pittman Jr. Last week, Jamar Chase just had an insanely good game on Monday night against the Rams defense. I expect more of the same here for Michael Pittman Jr., although they're not the same offense. Anthony Richardson is looking good so far. As for the Rams go, they're a middle-tier defense. They're not going to really, shut you down in the passing game, so I think the Colts won't struggle too much moving the ball in this matchup, especially like I said, with how well Anthony Richardson is playing right now, and he is fully clear from that concussion, should be good to go on Sunday. Number 3, I have Jakobi Meyers going against the Los Angeles Chargers. He has been a great option on the opposite side of Davante Adams through the 2 games that he's played so far. Scored 29.1 and 15.5 in PPR formats. That's great. That's good enough for top 20 in the league, and he missed 1 game. All right, he's facing the Chargers, who currently have given up the most passing yards in the entire NFL. Week number 1, they gave up 466 yards to the Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa, 246 yards to Ryan Tannehill in week number 2. And if you've ever watched Ryan Tannehill play, you'll know That's a lot of yards for the Titans offense to throw for. And then 367 yards to Kirk Cousins in week number 3. Everybody's having their way with this Chargers defense right now. I don't see anything changing here this week for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, there wasn't really a lot of people expecting this type of output from Jakobi Meyers because Davante Adams is the main guy in Las Vegas. You might have expected Jakobi Meyers to get, 5-6 targets on the opposite side of the field. But right now, he is averaging double-digit targets, has hit that in both of the games that he's played so far. Also, a lot of people are forgetting that Jakobi Meyers was a solid wide receiver in New England last year, but his quarterback play with Mac Jones was very shaky. All right, you can't really expect too much out of a guy that was struggling last season. Now, I do realize that Jimmy G might miss this game due to him still being stuck in concussion protocol as of Friday night when I'm recording this video. If he doesn't clear that by probably the morning on Sunday, then, he's not going to play. All right, you obviously can't play with a concussion. Considering that the Chargers have a insanely high-powered offense, rejuvenated offense, I should say, with Kellen Moore, they're going to score a lot of points in this one. Las Vegas should be down, and they should have to throw the ball a lot, so that's why I really don't care who is at quarterback in this matchup. I could have been boring and put Davante Adams on this list, but I didn't. All right, we're throwing Jakobi Meyers on here. I think they both have a great day against this Swiss cheese Chargers defense so far. Number 4, we have Brandon Aiyuk going against the Arizona Cardinals. Deebo Samuel, as of Friday night, is questionable for this game against the Cardinals, but I do think I'd be playing Brandon Aiyuk even if Deebo does suit up in this game. Also, George Kittle is a solid tight end play, but we won't get into that because he is not on this list. All right. So far, Brandon Ayuk's connection in week number 1, especially with Brock Purdy, has looked great. He finished as wide receiver number 2 in week number 1, scoring those 32-plus PPR fantasy points in that week. In week number 2, he got hurt very early on in the game. I know he stayed in the game for a while after that, but he wasn't his normal self by any means. He only played 30 out of a possible 57 snaps, so definitely not his ideal workload in this one. Still managed to get 3 catches for 43 yards on 6 targets, so not the worst day in the world. He's performed better than T. Higgins did in 2 of his games so far. That's all I'm saying. But as of this week, he fully practiced. He's fully healthy, ready to go for Sunday right now. As for the Cardinals defense goes, so far up to this point in the year, they've been very stingy. They came into the year and people had 0 expectations for this team. They have some fight in them, let me tell you that much. But I ultimately think that the 49ers, if they come ready to play, not like the Dallas Cowboys last week, if they come ready to play, this shouldn't be much of a problem for them to get a win here. I will say one more thing. If Deebo doesn't suit up in this game, you're starting Brandon Aiyuk in every single league that you have. He should definitely secure you a win in week number 4. Moving on to number 5, here we have Kyren Williams going against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the workload here alone should be enough for you to start Kyren Williams with confidence here on going forward. Williams was on the field for 100% of snaps at the running back position last week, which is unheard of. Okay, that's unheard of for running backs. He was there on all the passing downs, obviously, which is good. Now, the questionable part was his usage on the ground on Monday night. He only had 10 carries for 38 yards. Now, don't get me wrong, 3.8 yards per carry isn't the best in the world, but it's also not the worst. It's not completely ineffective. So I'm not sure why Sean McVay didn't use him more, but he's probably heard that all week. I expect him to get more carries going forward. But like I said, this was a close game, so it was a little weird that he didn't get more carries. The good thing about Williams is even if the Rams are getting blown out, it doesn't matter if they're getting blown out, doesn't matter if they are the ones blowing the other team out. Regardless, he's going to be on the field and he's going to get his attempts. Okay. So far, the Colts have given up 100-plus rushing yards to the Jaguars and the Ravens. They did hold the Texans to just over 50 rushing yards, but you know what the Texans' backfield looks like. It is not pretty. The offensive line is struggling right now. So I see a different outcome here for Kyren Williams. I see him having a good week in week number 4. Number 6, we got DeAndre Swift going against the Washington Commanders. The hype is really starting to build for Swift. I think it's for good reason. All right, solidifying himself as the clear number 1 running back last week. When Gainwell missed week 2, also, he ran for 175 yards and a touchdown. Week number 3 this past week against the Buccaneers, when Gainwell was back, he still ran for another 130 yards. All right, the snap count between the two was pretty much even for the most part, which was kind of expected. They were going to ride the hot hand, but they gave them both almost equal opportunity. Swift was so much more effective, though, on Monday night. Gainwell ran the ball 14 times for just 43 yards, and Swift had 16 carries for 130 yards. Not even close to the same production level. Going forward, I'm really expecting Swift to pull away as that #1 running back and get a larger workload than he did on Monday night, especially if he keeps performing like he did. Now, this week, Washington isn't a bad matchup at all for Philadelphia. Their offensive line should easily overpower Washington's defensive line and create a lot of open space for Swift to work with yet again. At the end of the day, I'm really not thinking twice about this one. I'm starting Swift in almost every single league. I think he's a lineup lock in week number 4. And the last person on this list that I have is Kenneth Walker going against the New York Giants. Kenneth Walker so far this season has been everything you could have wanted out of a 5th or 6th round fantasy football pick. All right, currently ranking 3rd out of all running backs right now. Charbonnet is seeing very similar snap count, but Kenneth Walker is getting the majority of the meaningful plays here. Most importantly, the goal line carries and enough passing down work where you can feel confident on a weekly basis starting Kenneth Walker right now, at least in PPR leagues. As for the Giants defense goes, they have been anything but great leading up to this game. So far up to this point, in week number 1, they gave up 22.2 PPR fantasy points to Tony Pollard. In week 2, 16.6 to James Conner, and in week 3, last Thursday night, 22.9 PPR fantasy points to Christian McCaffrey. With how explosive Kenneth Walker has looked up to this point, I think he's a must-start lineup lock once again in week number 4. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video, drop a thumbs up. As always, if you have any questions, leave them down below. Any starts, sits, trades, whatever. I'll answer anything. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, and good luck in week number 4. Peace.